Hello, all you beautiful people out there, and welcome to Saturday Livestream. Hello, Nevermore. Thanks for coming. Alrighty, so first comment of the week. And today's comment of the week goes to dun 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 Doorknob Head. And it's under Jehovah's Witnesses Mind Control. And he says from Wiki, in the book, Robert J. Lifton, MD, outlines the 8 criteria for thought reform: milieu control, mystical manipulation, demand for purity, confession, sacred science, loading the language, doctrine over person, and dispensing of existence. Hadn't heard of this listing before. PMO, physically in, mentally out. Ooh, another good one. So, milieu control is basically where the cult controls your environment. This can be anything from forbidding you to associate with certain people to um, literally having you on a compound, like Jonestown. Mystical manipulation would be like telling you God told him something, which is just ridiculous. Demand for purity, that's self explanatory. Confession, self explanatory. That's basically for shaming people. Um, Sacred science, that's basically making shit up. Uh, but in sciencey kind of language, like the young Earth creationists tried to do. Loading the language, which is a way to stop thoughts, doctrine over person, um, which is basically like the Jehovah's Witnesses have this doctrine of shunning. And it doesn't matter whether it's your mom or your dad or your best friend who's been disfellowshipped. Um, you have to shun that person. So that would be doctrine over person and dispensing of existence. And that would be, you know, you basically don't exist anymore. We exist for you. So that's comment of the week. And today in history, we have President Reagan challenges Gorbachev to tear down this wall. On June 12, 1987, in one of his most famous Cold War speeches, President Ronald Reagan challenges Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, sorry if I got that wrong, Russians, to tear down the Berlin Wall, symbol of the repressive communist era in a divided Germany. In 1945, following Germany's defeat in World War II, the nation's capital, Berlin, was divided into 4 sections, with the Americans, British, and French controlling the western region and the Soviets gaining power over the eastern region. In May 1949, the 3 western sections came together as the Federal Republic of Germany, or West Germany, with the German Democratic Republic, or East Germany, being established in October of that same year. In 1952, the border between the 2 countries was closed, and by the following year, East Germans were prosecuted if they left their country without permission. In August 1961, the Berlin Wall was erected by the East German government to prevent its citizens from escaping to the West. Between 1949 and the wall's inception, it's estimated that over 2.5 million East Germans fled to the West in search of a less repressive life. And the wall came down in, hey, Marianne, hey, Purple. The wall came down in 1989, I think, and it was a pretty big deal. I mean, it was. I saw it on TV. Um, it was like people were just using spoons and knives and screwdrivers and anything else they could use to chip away at this wall. And another thing was there was this guard on the East German side that he was being pressed by the people, and of course he was the only guard on duty, so he phoned his superiors, and his superiors said, "Yeah, let some of them go to the west side. It's okay." And that just opened up the floodgates, and that was basically, what brought the Berlin Wall down. Um, and so yeah, it was quite quite the sight. You know, there are sections of the wall that are still up in Berlin. Um, However, um, these are just like kind of like keepsakes, I guess you could say. Um, Kind of like this is where we've been. So, so yeah, it's not a wall anymore. It's more like a tone to history, I guess you could say. Um, so anyway, um, so yeah, it was historic. Uh, so now getting on to the main event of the day, where I make fun of the Bible and hopefully you get some laughs. So today we're going to Deuteronomy chapter 8. Oh joy. Be careful to follow every command I am giving you today, so that you may live and increase and may enter and possess the land the Lord promised on oath to your ancestors. Remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness these 40 years to humble and test you in order to know what was in your heart, whether or not you would keep his commands. He humbled you, causing you to hunger, and then feeding you with manna, which neither you nor your ancestors had known, to teach you that man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. Your clothes did not wear out, and your feet did not swell during these 40 years. Know then in your heart that as a man disciplines his son, so the Lord your God disciplines you. Yeah. No, thank you, God. You know, I'm happy being an atheist. If that's your kind of punishment, your kind of discipline, you know. Um, Verse 6, observe the commands of the Lord your God, walking in obedience to him and revering him. And let's be honest here, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Whether it's a religion or a cult, it's all about obedience. That's what it is. I'm sorry. That's the goddamn truth. Uh Verse 7, for the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land with brooks, streams, and deep springs gushing out into the valleys and hills, a land with wheat and barley, vines and fig trees, pomegranates, olive oil and honey, a land where bread will not be scarce and you will lack nothing, a land where the rocks are iron and you can dig copper out of the hills. Um, got a question. Um, he says a land where bread will not be scarce and you will lack nothing. Um, Not that it ever happened, but isn't that why Joseph brought his family over to Egypt in the first place? Was because there was a famine in the land? I mean, come on, really, God? You expect us to forget that story? Not that it ever happened, but I mean, come on. Verse 10, when you have eaten and are satisfied, praise the Lord your God for the good land he has given you. Be careful that you do not forget the Lord your God, failing to observe his commands, his laws, and his decrees that I am giving you today. Otherwise, when you eat and are satisfied, when you build fine houses and settle down, and when your herds and flocks grow large and your silver and gold increase, and all you have is multiplied, then your heart will become proud, and you will forget the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. He led you through the vast and dreadful wilderness, that thirsty and waterless land, with its venomous snakes and scorpions. Well, God, you're the one that sent venomous snakes among them to begin with. I mean, true, you didn't send the scorpions, but I mean, come on, for fuck's sake. Um, and, you know, uh, why you're telling them they're going to become proud? Okay, you already know this. Okay, so why the fuck are you going to punish them for something that you, God, have already decided that they're going to do? Okay, that makes no sense. Okay, um, verse 15. He led you through the vast and dreadful wilderness, that thirsty and waterless land with its venomous snakes and scorpions. He brought you water out of hard rock. Sure, sure. He gave you manna to eat in the wilderness, something your ancestors had never known, to humble and test you, so that in the end it might go well with you. Why? Why test them, God? I mean, like, I don't believe God exists, okay? And even if he did, I wouldn't worship him. Because he's an asshole, okay? But why the fuck are you testing them? You may say to yourself, My power and the strength of my hands have produced this wealth for me. Uh, that's because it did. But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth, and so confirms His covenant, which He swore to your ancestors, as it is today. If you ever forget the Lord your God and follow other gods and worship and bow down to them, I testify against you today that you will surely be destroyed. Like the nations the Lord destroyed before you, so you will be destroyed for not obeying the Lord your God. Okay, that's the end of chapter 8. But I got a question, okay? Like I always do. I always have questions with this fucking book, you know? All right. So nations come and nations go all the fucking time. What's what's so special about that? What's so special about that? Makes no fucking sense. Chapter 9. Hear Israel. You are now about to cross the Jordan to go in and dispossess nations greater and stronger than you, with large cities that have walls up to the sky. No. There was no slavery in Egypt, okay? Get that out of your fucking head. There was no slavery in Egypt, okay? The Israelites were Canaanites, basically. There were a few Mycenaeans that came over um, and joined forces with the Canaanites to make the Israelites, but for the most part, they were Canaanites, okay? And at this point, there were no walled cities. Keep that in mind because it's going to come up again in Joshua. Verse 2. The people are strong and tall. Anakites. You know about them and have heard it said, who can stand up against the Anakites? But be assured today that the Lord your God is the one who goes across ahead of you like a devouring fire. He will destroy them, he will subdue them before you, and you will drive them out and annihilate them quickly, as the Lord has promised you. Okay, so the thing is, if you look at what he said earlier, and I don't know whether it was last week or the week before, he said, God, the non existent God, he said, I'm going to drive them out little by little because if I don't, then, the animals and the weeds are going to take over the land. And he even, I mean, if you believe, this shit, but he even contradicted himself a few verses later. Um, there. So he's now contradicting himself again. Verse 4. After the Lord your God has driven them out before you, do not say to yourself, the Lord has brought me here to take possession of this land because of my righteousness. No, it is account on your wickedness of these nations that the Lord is going to drive them out before you. This is control at its deepest level. You are broken. You are sinful. You need somebody to save you from yourself. That's what all this is about. Verse 5. It is not because of your righteousness or your integrity that you are going to take possession of their land, but on account of the wickedness of these nations, the Lord your God will drive them out before you to accomplish what he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Understand then that it is not because of your righteousness that the Lord your God is giving you this good land to possess, for you are a stiff-necked people. Do I even have to say anything about that? I don't have to say anything about that, do I? All right, moving on. Verse 7. Remember this and never forget how you aroused the anger of the Lord your God in the wilderness. Um, how are they supposed to never forget how they aroused the anger of the Lord their God in the wilderness when these people weren't even around when that happened? Come on, God, do a little better. Come on, do a little better. I mean, we know you've got Alzheimer's, but come on. Um, from the day you left Egypt until you arrived here, you have been rebellious against the Lord. At Horeb, you aroused the Lord's wrath so that he was angry enough to destroy you. When I went up on the mountain to receive the tablets of stone, the tablets of the covenant the Lord made with you, I stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. I ate no bread and drank no water. And I just have to say, 40 is just a symbolic number in the Bible. It is not literally 40 days. The Lord gave me 2 stone tablets inscribed by the finger of God. On them were all the commandments the Lord proclaimed to you on the mountain out of the fire on the day of the assembly. At the end of the 40 days and 40 nights, the Lord gave me the 2 stone tablets, the tablets of the covenant. Then the Lord told me, go down from here at once, because your people, whom you brought out of Egypt, have become corrupt. They have turned away quickly from what I commanded them and have made an idol for themselves. Uh, as far as I know, God, the first time you said anything about idols was in the Ten Commandments. Again, you have to forgive God. He's got Alzheimer's. Verse 13. And the Lord said to me, I have seen this people, and they are stiff-necked people indeed. Let me alone, so that I may destroy them and blot out their name from under heaven, and I will make you into a nation stronger and more numerous than they. So I turned and went down from the mountain while it was ablaze with fire, and the 2 tablets of the covenant were in my hands. When I looked, I saw that you had sinned against the Lord your God. You had made for yourselves an idol cast in the shape of a calf. Okay, so this is important. Okay, because the Canaanites, their chief god, his name was El, and his avatar was the bull. So of course they made a calf, you fucking idiot. You had turned aside quickly from the way that the Lord had commanded you. So I took the 2 tablets and threw them out of my hands, breaking them to pieces before your eyes. Yes, you did, Moses. And again, God got Alzheimer's because the two versions of the 10 Commandments are completely different. Verse 18. Then once again I fell prostrate before the Lord for 40 days and 40 nights. Gotta suck that God dick. I ate no bread and drank no water because of all the sin you had committed, doing what was evil in the Lord's sight, and so arousing his anger. I feared the anger and wrath of the Lord, for he was angry enough with you to destroy you. Again, God needs anger management classes. But again, the Lord listened to me, and the Lord was angry enough with Aaron to destroy him. But at that time, I prayed for Aaron too. Also, I took that sinful thing of yours, the calf you had made, and burned it in the fire. Then I crushed it and ground it to powder as fine as dust and threw the powder into a stream that flowed down the mountain. You also made the Lord angry at Taberah, at Massa, and at Kibroth Hattaavah. And when the Lord sent you out from Kadesh Barnea, he said, go up and take possession of the land I have given you. But you rebelled against the command of the Lord your God. You did not trust him or obey him. You have been rebellious against the Lord ever since I have known you. And again, these are not the people who rebelled against the Lord, because all those goddamn people are dead, according to the Bible. Verse 25, I lay prostrate before the Lord those 40 days and 40 nights, because the Lord had said he would destroy you. I prayed to the Lord and said, Sovereign Lord, do not destroy your people, your own inheritance that you redeemed by your great power and brought out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Remember your servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Overlook the stubbornness of this people, their wickedness, and their sin. Otherwise, the country from which you brought us will say, because the Lord was not able to take them into the land he had promised them, and because he hated them, he brought them out to put them to death in the wilderness. But they are your people, your inheritance that you brought out by your great power and your outstretched arm. I know, right? 2v2 me. Blame the victim. There you go. That's what God does throughout all the fucking Bible. Blame the victim. Chapter 10. At that time the Lord said to me, chisel out 2 stone tablets like the first ones, and come up to me on the mountain. Also make a wooden ark. I will write on the tablets the words that were on the first tablets which you broke. Then you are to put them in the ark. Okay, first of all, no, he did not make the same commandments that he made on the first tablets. Second of all, the ark wasn't even commanded of God at that time. Yeah, right, Purple. So this makes no goddamn sense whatsoever. So I made the ark out of acacia wood. Um, according to the Bible, Moses did not make the ark. According to the Bible, somebody else made the ark. Verse 3. So I made the ark out of acacia wood and chiseled out 2 stone tablets like the first ones, and I went up on the mountain with the 2 tablets in my hand. The Lord wrote on these tablets what he had written before, the 10 commandments he had proclaimed to you on the mountain, out of the fire on the day of the assembly. No, he did not. Again, God has Alzheimer's, because if you remember correctly, God started to talk to the Israelites, and the Israelites said, according to the Bible, don't let God talk to us because we're going to be killed. Moses is like, okay, I'll go up and talk to God. Verse 5. Then I came down the mountain and put the tablets in the ark I had made, as the Lord commanded me, and they are there now. The Israelites traveled from the wells at Bena Jaakan to Mazara. There Aaron died and was buried, and Eleazar his son succeeded him as priest. From there they traveled to Gudgoda and on to Jotbatha, a land with streams of water. At that time the Lord set apart the tribe of Levi to carry the ark of the covenant of the Lord, to stand before the Lord, to minister, and to pronounce blessings in his name, as they still teach today. Uh, Again, no, he didn't. This was like before all this went down. This was when the tabernacle was being made. Verse 9. That is why the Levites have no share or inheritance among their fellow Israelites. The Lord is their inheritance, as the Lord your God told them. Now I had stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights, as I did the first time. And the Lord listened to me at this time also. It was not his will to destroy you. Oh, so I guess God's mind can be changed. I mean, God's the one that said, there's no shadow of turning with me. My mind cannot be changed. Yes, it can. It says right here it can be changed. Verse 11. Go, the Lord said to me, and lead the people on their way, so that they may enter and possess the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. And now, Israel, what does the Lord your God ask of you but to fear the Lord your God, to walk in obedience to him, to love him, to serve the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, and to observe the Lord's commands and decrees that I am giving you today for your own good? Yeah, forget that it doesn't make sense. Forget that it doesn't make any goddamn sense. Just stroke God's dick, because that's what God wants. Verse 14. To the Lord your God belong the heavens, even the highest heavens, the earth and everything in it. Yet the Lord set his affection on your ancestors and loved them, and he chose you, their descendants, above all the nations, as it is today. Um, doesn't the New Testament say something about God doesn't have any favorites? Yeah. Verse 16. Circumcise your hearts, therefore. Oh, so What, we got to chop off part of our hearts now? Chopping off our son's dicks ain't enough. We got to chop off part of our hearts now. And do not be stiff-necked any longer. For the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great God, mighty and awesome, who shows no partiality and accepts no bribes. Except you do show partiality, because you didn't choose any other nation. According to you, you chose Israel. Verse 18, he defends the cause of the fatherless and the widow, and loves the foreigner residing among you, giving them food and clothing. And you are to love those who are foreigners, for you yourselves were foreigners in Egypt. Fear the Lord your God and serve him. Again, if somebody loves you, they are not going to ask you to fear them. Hold fast to him and take your oaths in his name. Oh, does that give us permission to grab God's dick instead of just sucking it? I'm sorry. I'm just on a roll today. Verse 21, he is the one you praise. He is your God, who performed for you those great and awesome wonders you saw with your own eyes. Your ancestors who went down into Egypt were 70 in all, and now the Lord your God has made you as numerous as the stars in the sky. Uh, no. Um, the Israelites are far less than the stars in the sky. Chapter 11. Love the Lord your God and keep his requirements, his decrees, his laws, and his commandments always. Because if you don't, I'm going to punish you. Remember today that your children were not the ones who saw and experienced the discipline of the Lord your God, his majesty, his mighty hand, his outstretched arm, the signs he performed, and the things he did in the heart of Egypt, both to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and to his whole country. Yeah, because you're the one who hardened his heart, God. He didn't have a choice. Verse 4, what he did to the Egyptian army, to its horses and chariots, how he overwhelmed them with the waters of the Red Sea as they were pursuing you, and how the Lord brought lasting ruin on them. Again, no, this never happened. And, I had a Christian ask me one time, well, if the Egyptian army didn't drown in the Red Sea, why is there a chariot wheel in the Red Sea? I'm like, uh, if the Egyptian army did drown in the Red Sea, why is there only one and not a bunch of chariot wheels in the Red Sea? Uh, verse 5. It was not your children who saw what he did for you in the wilderness until you arrived at this place, and what he did to Dathan and Abiram, sons of Eliab the Reubenite, when the earth opened its mouth right in the middle of all Israel and swallowed them up with all their households, their tents, and every living thing that belonged to them. Yeah, because they pissed you off. Great, God. Now, the only thing we're learning is not to piss you off. Wonderful. That's a great way to get people to love you. Verse 7, but it was your own eyes that saw all these great things the Lord has done. Observe, therefore, all the commands I am giving you today, so that you may have the strength to go in and take over the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess, and so that you may live long in the land the Lord swore to your ancestors to give to them and their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. And just a side note, it's coming. I promise people it's coming. Um, God did not drive the people of the hill country out, so obviously he can't defeat iron chariots. The land you're entering to take over is not like the land of Egypt from which you have come, where you planted your seed and irrigated it by foot in a vegetable garden. But the land you are crossing the Jordan to take possession of is a land of mountains and valleys that drinks rain from heaven. It is a land that the Lord your God cares for. The eyes of the Lord your God are continually on it from the beginning of the year to its end. Um, so not only do you have Alzheimer's, but you're fucking blind too. I mean, come on, God. There's more nations out there than just little old Israel. Verse 13. So if you faithfully obey the commands I am giving you today, to love the Lord your God and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, then I will send rain on your land in its season, both autumn and spring rains, so that you may gather in your grain, new wine and olive oil. I will provide grass in the fields for your cattle, and you will eat and be satisfied. Exactly. Exactly, Lisa. Um, verse 16. Be careful, or you will be enticed to turn away and worship other gods and bow down to them. Then the Lord's anger will burn against you, and he will shut up the heavens so that it will not rain, and the ground will yield no produce, and you will soon perish from the good land the Lord is giving you. Um, God, I know you have Alzheimer's, but just in the last chapter, you promised rain, like, forever. But like, you know, um, at any rate, let's forget that. Let's forget that, okay? Um, you're just uh never mind. This this is fucking horrible. I mean, this doesn't even make sense. Verse 18. Fix these words of mine in your hearts and minds. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Teach them to your children, talking about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates, so that your days and the days of your children may be many in the land the Lord swore to your ancestors, as many as the days that the heavens are above the earth. Yeah, that lasted all of what, 200 years? Something like that. Um, Verse 22. If you carefully observe all these commands I am giving you to follow, to love the Lord your God, to walk in obedience to him, and to hold fast to him, then the Lord will drive out these nations before you, and you will dispossess nations larger and stronger than you. Every place where you set your foot will be yours. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon and from the Euphrates River to the Mediterranean Sea. No one will be able to stand against you. The Lord your God, as he promised you, will put the terror and fear of you on the whole land wherever you go. See, I'm setting before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing, if you obey the commands of the Lord your God that I am giving you today. The curse, if you disobey the commands of the Lord your God and turn away that I command you today by following other gods which you have not known. When the Lord your God has brought you into the land you are entering to possess, you are to proclaim on Mount Gerizim the blessing. Um, I lost my place. Mount Gerizim, the blessings, and on Mount Ebal, the curses. I think, I'm not sure, but I think that Mount Gerizim is Israel's holy mountain, and Mount Ebal is Jerusalem's holy mountain. But I'm not sure. Verse 30. As you know, these mountains are across the Jordan westward toward the setting sun near the great trees of Morah and the territory of those Canaanites living in the Arabah in the vicinity of Gilgal. You are about to cross the Jordan to enter and take possession of the land the Lord your God is giving you. When you have taken it over and are living there, be sure that you obey all the decrees and laws I'm setting before you today. Verse 12. These are chapter 12, rather. Sorry about that. These are the decrees and laws you must be careful to follow in the land that the Lord, the God of your ancestors, have given you to possess as long as you live in the land. Destroy completely all the places on the high mountains, on the hills, and under every spreading tree where the nations you are dispossessing worship their gods. Break down their altars, smash their sacred stones, and burn their Asherah poles in the fire. Cut down the idols of their gods and wipe out their names from those places. Now, if you do not know, I've made a couple of videos on Asherah. The Asherah pole is actually Asherah's symbol. Asherah is El's wife. And if you've been on my channel for any length of time, you know that um, um, in the very beginning, that Yahweh, um, that the Israelites conflated Yahweh and El, so they combined El and Yahweh, and Asherah became Yahweh's wife. Verse 4. You must not worship the Lord your God in their way, but you are to seek the place the Lord your God will choose from among all your tribes to put his name there for his dwelling. To that place you must go. There bring your burnt offerings and sacrifices, your tithes and special gifts, what you have vowed to give, and your freewill offerings, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks. They are in the presence of the Lord your God, and your families shall eat and shall rejoice in everything you have put your hand to, because the Lord your God has blessed you. You are not to do as we do here today, everyone doing as they see fit, since you have not yet reached the resting place and the inheritance the Lord your God is giving you. But you will cross the Jordan and settle in the land the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance. And he will give you rest from all your enemies around you so that you will live in safety. Yeah, that lasted for how long? Verse 11. Then to the place the Lord your God will choose as a dwelling for his name, there you are to bring everything I command you, your burnt offerings and sacrificing, your tithes and special gifts, and all the choice possessions you have vowed to the Lord. And there rejoice before the Lord your God, you, your sons, your daughters, your male and female servants, and the Levites from your towns who have no allotment or inheritance of their own. Be careful not to sacrifice your burnt offerings anywhere you please. Offer them only at the place the Lord will choose in one of your tribes, and there observe everything I command you. Because, of course, it's not just enough to worship the Lord your God alone. You gotta suck his dick in the way he wants. Uh, Verse 15. Nevertheless, you may slaughter your animals in any of your towns and eat as much of the meat as you want, as if it were gazelle or deer, according to the blessing the Lord your God gives you. Both the ceremonially unclean and clean may eat it, but you must not eat the blood poured out on the ground like water. You must not eat in your towns the tithe of your grain and new wine and olive oil, or the firstborn of your herds and flocks, or whatever you have vowed to give, or your freewill offerings or special gifts. Instead, you are to eat them in the presence of the Lord your God, at the place the Lord your God will choose. You, your sons, your daughters, your male and female servants, the Levites from your towns, and you are to rejoice before the Lord your God in everything you put your hand to. Be careful not to neglect the Levites as long as you live in your land. Well, yeah, because of course, God, you know, we got to serve you and we have to like it because, we don't have a choice. Verse 20. When the Lord your God has enlarged your territory as he has promised you, and you crave meat and say, I would like some meat, then you may eat as much of it as you want. If the place where the Lord your God chooses to put his name is too far away from you, you may slaughter animals from the herds and flocks the Lord has given you as I commanded you, and in your own towns you may eat as much of them as you want. Eat them as you would gazelle or deer, both the ceremonially unclean and the clean may eat. But be sure you do not eat the blood, because the blood is life, and you must not eat the life with the meat. Okay, so this is where the J Dubs get the you can't have a blood transfusion. Fucking hell. Blood transfusions didn't even exist back then. Okay? That's ludicrous. Verse 24. You must not eat the blood poured out on the ground like water. Do not eat it, so that it may go well with you and your children after you, because you will be doing what is right in the eyes of the Lord. But take your consecrated things and whatever you have vowed to give, and go to the place the Lord will choose. Present your burnt offerings on the altar of the Lord your God, both the meat and the blood. The blood of your sacrifices must be poured beside the altar of the Lord your God, but you may eat meat. Blood for the blood god. Yeah, I saw that, Marianne, but I didn't know that was you. I thought that was another Marianne. Be careful to obey all these regulations I'm giving you, so that it may always go well with you and your children after you, because you will be doing what is good and right in the eyes of the Lord your God. The Lord your God will cut off before you the nations you are about to invade and dispossess. No, he won't. But when you have driven them out and settled in their land, and after they have been destroyed before you, be careful not to be ensnared by inquiring about their gods, saying, how do these nations serve their gods? We will do the same. You must not worship the Lord your God in their way, because in worshiping their gods they do all kinds of detestable things the Lord hates. They even burn their sons and daughters in the fire as to their gods. See that you do all I command you. Do not add to it or take away from it. Oh, so like they even burn their sons and daughters in the fire as sacrifices to their gods, like, Jephthah did with his daughter, like that kind of sacrifice. Chapter 13. If a prophet or one who foretells by dreams appears to you and announces to you a sign or wonder, and the sign or wonder spoken of takes place, and the prophet says, let us follow other gods you have not known, and let us worship them. You must not listen to the words of that prophet or dreamer. The Lord your God is testing you to find out whether you love him with all your heart and with all your soul. Okay, I just got to say something. Um, but somewhere in the Bible, I can't remember where right now, somewhere in the goddamn fucking Bible, it says if a prophet prophesies to you something and it doesn't come to pass, then that prophet is a false prophet. But then now here God is saying, well, if the prophet prophesies something and it does come to pass, it might be the devil trying to get you. So don't fucking fall for it. What the fuck? Somebody please explain this to me. Verse 4. It is the Lord your God you must follow, and him you must revere. Keep his commands and obey him. Serve him and hold fast to him. That prophet or dreamer must be put to death for inciting rebellion against the Lord, your God, who brought you out of Egypt and redeemed you from the land of slavery. That prophet or dreamer tried to turn you from the way of the Lord your God commanded you to follow. You must purge the evil from among you. Again, they prophesied something that came true. So Now you're saying that demons can make something come true? So exactly what the fuck is the difference between you, God, and a demon? Verse 6, if your very own brother or your son or daughter or the wife you love or your closest friend secretly entices you, saying, let us go and worship other gods, gods that neither you nor your ancestors have known, gods of the people around you, whether near or far, from one end of the land to the other, do not yield to them or listen to them. Show them no pity. Do not spare them or shield them. You must certainly put them to death. You know what, God? Go fuck yourself. Because I'm not doing that. Your hand must be the first in putting them to death, and then the hands of all the people. Stone them to death because they tried to turn you away from the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. Then all Israel will hear and be afraid, and no one among you will do such an evil thing again. Well, Lisa, that's the thing. A lot of people never even read the whole thing. Never. They're just happy to sit in their goddamn little church, in their goddamn little pew, being fed bullshit by their pastor. Okay, I lost my place again. And if it is true and it has been proved that this detestable thing has been done among you, you must certainly put to the sword all who live in that town. Oh, I missed something. Oh, verse 12. If you hear it said about one of the towns the Lord your God is giving you to live in, that troublemakers have arisen among you and have led the people of their towns astray, saying, let us go and worship other gods, gods you have not known, then you must inquire, probe, and investigate it thoroughly. And if it is true and it has been proved that this detestable thing has been done among you, you must certainly put to the sword all who live in the town. So the innocent and the people who said, let's go serve this other fucking God. Yeah, great, great. You must destroy it completely, both its people and its livestock. Why? What's up with the fucking animals? The animals didn't do anything. Verse 16, you are to gather all the plunder of the town into the middle of the public square and completely burn the town and all its plunder as a whole burnt offering to the Lord your God. That town is to remain a ruin forever, never to be rebuilt. And I'd like to know how much that has happened over the years. Verse 17, and none of the condemned things are to be found in your hands. Then the Lord will turn from his fierce anger, will show you mercy, and will have compassion on you. He will increase your numbers as he promised on oath to your ancestors, because you obey the Lord your God by keeping all his commands that I am giving you today and doing what is right in his eyes. Chapter 14, and Thank goodness it's the last chapter of today. You are the children of the Lord your God. Do not cut yourselves or shave the front of your heads for the dead, for you are a people holy to the Lord your God. Out of all the peoples on the face of the earth, the Lord has chosen you to be his treasured possession. Do not eat any detestable thing. These are the animals you may eat: the ox, the sheep, the goat, the deer, the gazelle, the roe deer, the wild goat, the ibex, the antelope, and the mountain sheep. You may eat any animal that has a divided hoof and that chews cud. Chews the cud basically means they eat their own vomit. I know, it's disgusting. However, of those that chew the cud or that have a divided hoof, you may not eat the camel, the rabbit, or the hyrax. Although they chew the cud, they do not have a divided hoof. They are ceremonially unclean for you. The pig is also unclean. Although it has a divided hoof, it does not chew the cud. Why? Why? Is this just some fucking rule that all of a sudden you just dreamed up? You are not to eat their meat or touch their carcasses. Of all the creatures living in the water, you may eat any that have fins and scales, but anything that does not have fins and scales, you may not eat. For you it is unclean. You may eat any clean bird, but these you may not eat: the eagle, the vulture, the black vulture, the red kite, the black kite, any kind of falcon, any kind of raven, the horned owl, the screech owl, the gull, any kind of hawk, the little owl, the great owl, the white owl, the desert owl, the osprey, the cormorant, the stork, any kind of heron, the hoopoe, and the bat. All flying insects are unclean to you. Do not eat them. But any winged creature that is clean you may eat. Um, But the locust is a flying insect, and John the Baptist ate locusts. Huh. Verse 21. Do not eat anything you find already dead. You may give it to the foreigner residing in any of your towns, and they may eat it, or you may sell it to any other foreigner. But you are people holy to the Lord your God. Do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. That command makes no goddamn sense. Verse 22. Be sure to set aside a tenth of all that your fields produce each year. Eat the tithe of your grain, new wine, and olive oil, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks, in the presence of the Lord your God, at the place he will choose as a dwelling for his name, so that you may learn to revere the Lord your God always. But if that place is too distant, and you have been blessed by the Lord your God, and cannot carry your tithe, because the place where the Lord will choose to put his name is so far away, then exchange your tithe for silver, and take the silver with you, and go to the place the Lord your God will choose. Use the silver to buy whatever you like: cattle, sheep, wine, or other fermented drink, or anything you wish. Then you and your household shall eat there in the presence of the Lord your God and rejoice. And do not neglect the Levites living in your towns, for they have no allotment or inheritance of their own. At the end of every 3 years, bring all the tithes of that year's produce and store it in your towns so that the Levites who have no allotment or inheritance of their own, and the foreigners, the fatherless, and the widows who live in your towns may come and eat and be satisfied, and so that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hands. And that's the end of chapter 14. Thank goodness. Uh, I'm serious. Who the fuck thinks this is a good book? That's what I want to know. Who the fuck thinks this is a good book? I'm only in Deuteronomy, folks. I'm only in Deuteronomy. We have a whole lot of fucking hell to go through. Whole lot of fucking hell. Anyway, please leave comments in the comments section. Not only does it trigger the YouTube algorithm, but I also love hearing from you guys. And also, please leave a like. That also helps the YouTube algorithm. Or if you don't like me saying fuck all the time, you can leave a dislike. Also, all links are in the description. My Patreon, my Twitter page, and all that. Everything's in the description. If you want to become a channel member, please do that as well. The join link is under the window of this video. As you can see, you get when you become a channel member, unless you tell me, and I will respect your wishes if you tell me not to put your name on the channel members banner, then you will have a channel member name, or your name will be in the channel member banner. You get emojis, and yeah. So anyway, see you guys later, and have a great rest of your night. Bye.